From R.D. Smothers Wealth Management, this is The Retirement.
When you retire, if you want an exciting life, you need a boring investment strategy.
Matters.
If you enter into retirement without a plan for income, you're not retired, you're simply unemployed.
Podcast.
Hey, this is your host, Dale Smothers, and you're listening to the Retirement Matters Podcast. My hope is that you will find the information you need in every single show on how to do one of the three things: either saving more money more efficiently, planning better for your future where you can live in retirement worry-free, or my favorite, how you can live a happy and fulfilled life in this life you have been given. We know that your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending it listening to this episode of the Retirement Matters Podcast. On this week's episode of the Retirement Matters Podcast, we take a deep dive into all things taxation. And funny enough, we didn't mention this in the show, but our first topic we talk about is inflation. And if you think through that enough, you realize that inflation is a version of taxation. And then from there, we go into healthcare expenses. A lot of people are concerned with Medicare selection, even going into long-term care, making sure that their house is not taken from them, or that the land that they have had in the family for so many years is not stripped away from mom and dad. There are ways around that. We discuss a couple of those, and of course, we extend an offer to get more detailed and a little bit more clarity on your unique situation. Give our team a call if you've got that fear yourself, 270-600-PLAN. And then, of course, we move to taxes themselves, and we discuss why we believe that taxes are likely to increase. And we don't necessarily go into strategies on how to lower your taxes, but we do believe that you should be looking for opportunities. And again, if any of this is something that you would like a little assistance on, we're here to help. Now, I think that this show is going to go pretty quickly. It goes from topic to topic, and I hope that you find something useful in it. And before we jump to the show, I just want to tell you our mission here every single week is to make sure that you have a little bit more information, or at least a little bit more insight on the complexities of retirement planning, and then to know that you have a friend in our firm. We would love for you to rate this podcast, to leave us an honest review, and to share it with your friends, family, or relatives, even some of the people that you know that you work with that are needing this type of information, because we believe that the more people we can get this information out to, the closer we are to fulfilling our mission of empowering people who will then go on to impact lives and enrich futures. Said a different way, if we can alleviate a retiree's fear and worry about their money, they can go out and live their life to its fullest and ultimately impact people around them that they may never have seen before or maybe never meet in their lifetime. And this is our mission. We would love for you to help us in that mission. All right, so without further ado, let's jump to this week's episode titled Inflation, Long-Term Care, and Taxes. Enjoy the show. Good morning to you. I hope you're doing well and you are ready to start discussing all things retirement matters. Right here on this show this morning, we're going to cover a lot of different topics that are going to impact you and your retirement journey. Making sure that you have enough money to last all the way through retirement is our goal. Each and every week, we give you little tips on what you need to make sure that that is a reality for you. And whether you are 30 years from retirement or you're 30 days into retirement, what we are going to discuss is certainly going to assist you in making your retirement as good as it can possibly be. So let's jump into today's episode. But before we get there, as always, we have to go to the most important segment of the show, which is the pause for positivity. There is a lot of things that we could focus on that are negative. It's as if they bombard us with negativity at all turns. And that's why we have this section called the pause for positivity. Sometimes we bring news stories. Sometimes we bring personal stories. Sometimes, just like today, we bring thoughts. And this thought is a quote. Again, another quote that has impacted me in the last couple of weeks. It says, you've got to look deep in life to find deep things. If you always stay at the surface, you'll never find anything worth exploring. Again, you have to look deep in life to find the deep things. If you always stay at the surface, you'll never find anything worth exploring. This is a powerful statement. If you can start to look deeper into people, getting to understand them, look deeper into situations to find the optimism that is hidden inside. It's kind of like snorkeling or diving. If you snorkel and all you do is stay in the shallow water, you may not see much other than sand. But if you go deep into the ocean where it's 30 and 40 feet deep, and you can see all the way to the bottom of that sometimes. Have you ever been snorkeling like that? You can see all the way to the bottom, and there's some pretty awesome things that you see as soon as you breach the surface. You got to get in enough water to be dangerous, and then you've got to get your head below the surface to see all of the wonderful things there are to see. And I would say about a year ago, I went scuba diving for the first time in a long time, and we were in about 40 to 50 feet of water. And I was walking along the floor of the ocean, at 40 to 50 feet. And there's a lot of pressure on you at that depth. Everything inside of you, at least as soon as you go down, makes you want to come up to the surface. But once you get acclimated to the pressure down there, there's some really incredible things to see. Fish that you may have never even witnessed had you not taken that dive. And when I hear this statement, once again, it says you've got to look deep in life to find the deep things. If you always stay at the surface, you'll never find anything worth exploring. When I think of that statement, the first thing that comes to mind is scuba diving. I don't do it often. I've only done it a few times, and I'm not an expert at it by any stretch of the imagination. But it does highlight the point that if you stay at the surface, even if you're scuba diving and you never stick your head under the surface of the water, you will not see anything worth exploring. You are just floating out in the abyss. And one thing as I was talking through this, as you go deeper, there is pressure on you to stop or to turn around and go back. In scuba diving, that is certainly the case. If you've ever been, you know what I'm talking about. In the real world, in the world of getting to know people, in the world of giving grace and perseverance through that person's failures and faults, in the world of exploring the deep things of life, whether it be friendship or it's understanding the deep things of wisdom and knowledge and all there is to explore with that, there will be pressure to stop. And my challenge to you this week is to not stay at the surface. Don't stay at the surface on your spiritual walk. Don't stay at the surface on your emotional walk with your friends. Do not stay at the surface with your spouse. Don't stay at the surface with any other bit of wisdom that you need to do your job and do it wisely. Dive deeper, explore, and I promise you the world around you becomes brighter because of your perspective change. That's our pause for positivity. We're going to go to a quick break, and we're going to dive into, no pun intended, a lot of retirement matters right after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Looks like we have about a 72% chance of a successful landing today.
Did you catch that? A 72% chance of success? No one would fly on this airline. But you'd be surprised how many people take this approach to their own retirement. This is Dale Smothers, your host of the Retirement Matters Show. Join me right here each week as we discuss ways you can gain confidence in your retirement plan. Good decision-making, time-tested strategies, and a well-written plan will allow you the luxury of relaxation, even when you're going through those panic-inducing, turbulent times. As the host of the Retirement Matters Show, we will teach you how to keep your retirement on track, making sure that your destination is everything you wanted it to be.
Tune in for the Retirement Matters Show with Dale Smothers. Also, check out the Retirement Matters podcast. Just search for Retirement Matters with Dale Smothers on the podcast platform of your choice.
All right, welcome back to the show. Let's jump into our first topic. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I want to cover several topics today, and we'll reset with some commercial breaks in between. This first topic is inflation. Many of us understand what inflation does. Of course, it erodes our purchasing power. It makes our dollar weaker in our pockets. Money sitting in the bank or sitting in a coffee can buried underneath the earth is losing money if inflation is high. And we've experienced some serious inflation in the last 2 years. Inflation in general has, predominantly been something that has consistently went up. I've got a pretty neat little statistic here that I've cited before, but it says that back in 1980, you could afford up to 6 Big Macs with 1 hour of minimum wage. Up to 6 Big Macs with 1 hour of minimum wage. And today, you can only buy 1 despite minimum wage being doubled. This is the type of inflation that we experience. And, inflation does truly erode or degrade a country. Hyperinflation is one of the primary reasons that countries fail and governments fail. This statistic goes on to say in 1980, a Big Mac costed 50 cents. You had a minimum wage of $3.10. And today, according to this statistic, the minimum wage is $7.25. I may want to check that. Either way, a Big Mac is as much as $8 on average across the country. Man, that is unreal how high things have gotten. And it's hard to make ends meet. Now, as a working class American, you probably managed to figure out ways to make ends meet. But when you retire, things become a little bit more challenging because we can't consistently earn income. I've heard it said before that working up to retirement, we are exchanging our human capital for actual capital, tangible capital. So put a different way, we are exchanging our energy and our youthfulness for money. But there comes a point in time where our youthfulness has started to dwindle down to almost nothing at the point at which we feel like we have enough money stored to retire. I wish we could live life backwards sometimes. I wish we could work in our 70s and 80s and live life from our 20s to our 70s. That would be incredible. However, this is not the way things happen. And for that reason, when you retire at 65, some of us are able to retire at 50, 55, maybe 59 and a half. That's the golden number. When you retire, when you walk away from work and you're no longer earning income, it's likely that you will need your money to not only provide you income today, but income for the next 20 or 30 years. And that income has to keep up with the price of inflation, or using my little statistic that I brought up, the price of a Big Mac. Inflation is ultimately a math problem. In economics, we think of that as a supply and demand problem. If there isn't enough goods and there are too many dollars chasing too few of goods, the price of those goods increase. And there's been an influx of dollars put into the environment. So there's a little bit of an understanding of what inflation is, but how do we safeguard against that in retirement? And the number one thing we have to do is have an income plan. If you will build an income plan in retirement, you can know where money is going to be coming from, and do you have enough to actually sustain the retirement you desire? We have met with people in the past that have maybe never seen an income plan. They've never even understood how much money they have in relation to how much money they need and how long that money will last. That's the first thing we have to do to combat inflation. We have to make sure that our money is going to last. Because you think, well, wait a minute, Dale, that's not really combating inflation. And I may concur with that argument. But one thing it is doing is letting you know whether or not you are ready to start combating inflation. Knowing where your dollars will come from is the first step in retirement. Knowing how long that money will last is the first step in retirement. And when I talk about a plan, I'm not talking about having a 401k plan or an IRA plan. I'm talking about having a written down step-by-step procedure, knowing where income is going to come from and when you're going to turn it on. When are you going to pull this lever to turn this source of income on and push this button to turn this source of income off? When does that happen? How does that happen? How does that impact your taxes? How does that impact your inheritance? And is there enough money to last for the people that I love and care about the most when I'm dead and gone? We've got to know what you want your money to do while you're alive, and then we've got to understand what your money should do for you when you are dead. And if we can understand those two things, we can begin to work on a true income plan that gets you to your desired destination. And before I move to the next step to offset inflation in retirement years, I want to lay a little word of caution here because we've seen a lot of people come in that have recently said, yeah, my advisor and I worked on a plan and, I want your opinion on this plan. If your income plan is built with the assumption that the stock market is going to generate 7 or 8% rates of return for you, even as high as 6% rate of return, you need to revisit that plan. You must build the income plan based off of worst case, or at the very least, a more realistic case of returns. And yes, 7 and 8% rate of return is certainly possible in the stock market. But if all of your money is in the stock market and you are depending on that money for income, you are likely to experience some bad years along the way. And if those bad years come too early, you may not live long enough to actually experience the 7 or 8% average that your plan is based on. Because the way that most income plans are built is they show a linear rate of return. So they don't show a lot of ups and downs. It's just a steady. If you say 7%, every year your income or your account grows by 7%. And that's not realistic. So you need to make that more like a 4% or at the very most a 5% average rate of return. And then your investments have to be properly positioned, which, ironically enough, is the next step in offsetting inflation. Number 2, so if number 1 is have a plan, number 2 is make sure your investments are properly positioned to hit the income plan. So you need an investment plan that supports the income plan. That sounds familiar, right? We've said that a million times on the show. You must have an investment plan that supports the income plan. And that investment plan has to be in a spot that is earning enough interest to offset inflation as well as offset the amount of income you desire from the portfolio. So if you're needing 4% of your money every year to generate your income, that 4% needs to grow by the rate of inflation. Some years it may grow by 6 or 7%, which we've experienced recently, inflation at all-time highs. Some years it might only grow by 2%. Some years it may never grow at all. Inflation is a finicky thing. And yes, our CPI readings have just come out this past week. We understand that inflation is cooling off, but you will not see prices fall just because inflation is going down. And as we wrap up here, I want you to understand what that reading of inflation means. When we get that back and it says that it's trending down or that it's not growing as fast, inflation is not as high as it was. A good way to look at that would be like me saying in 2021, I gained 30 pounds. And in 2022, I gained 32 pounds. And in 2023, I gained 20 pounds. And this year, I only gained 7 pounds. It's not like I got smaller. I'm just not gaining weight as quickly. This is what inflation is doing. We are consistently gaining weight, if you will. We're just not gaining it as fast. Inflation is consistently eroding at your purchasing power. It just so happens that this year it didn't erode as much. And that's a good thing, but it's still something we must plan for. If you have not had a plan put together for income, and you would like to sit down to see if it's possible for you to retire, especially if you're over the age of 59 and a half, now is time to do this. 270-600-PLAN. Someone on our team will sit down with you and begin crafting a plan for you for how much income you need in retirement and let you know very clearly if you have enough to actually retire the way you desire. All right, we're going to reset with a break, and when we come back, we're jumping into a topic that is very important, and it impacts your income plan. It's not inflation, but instead it is healthcare. Offsetting the cost of healthcare can be one of the biggest challenges, especially if you have long-term care expenses, and we want to know how we can safeguard against the farm or the house or our land or even our money being taken by the nursing home. So when we get back, we're going to be discussing that. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back with more Retirement Matters after this.
Thank you for listening to Retirement Matters, presented by R.D. Smothers Wealth Management. We help folks just like you retire the way they desire and live happy in retirement. If If you'd like to speak with us, maybe even just ask some questions, give us a call at 270-600-PLAN. That's 270-600-PLAN. And if you enjoy the information in this show and would like to hear more, you can access previous shows by searching for the Retirement Matters Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. That's the Retirement Matters Podcast, available to you 24/7 wherever you listen to podcasts. We also produce a weekly newsletter. Receive it free to your email inbox by signing up online at rdswealth.com. That's rdswealth.com to sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Our phone number once again, 270-600-PLAN, and online at rdswealth.com. Be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter.
Welcome back to the show. Let's jump into a topic that's dedicated to healthcare expenses in retirement. We're going to cover from Medicare all the way to long-term care and everything in between. But before we get there, I want to talk to you about what it looks like to retire early. If you retire early, you have to bridge the gap between your age of retirement and age 65. At 65, you go to Medicare. We all are aware of that. However, a lot of people are afraid of retiring early because of health care. If you're over the age of 59 and a half and you have not taken a look at what it looks like to retire early, specifically because you're afraid of the cost of health care insurance, give us a call. 270-600-PLAN. We can assist you in at least exploring some opportunities if you've saved enough money to bridge that gap between 59 and a half and 65. Once you've reached the age of 65, again, if you are not there and you are looking to retire early, it's not impossible. But once you've reached the age of 65, one of the big variables of retirement are essentially checked off: the cost of health insurance. However, it becomes confusing for a lot of people. We can assist you in selecting the right Medicare plan. We help our clients all the time. Again, we build roadmaps for 5 main areas: income planning, investment planning. We get to tax planning, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. And we go into healthcare planning. From there, we build a legacy plan. In the healthcare plan, we make sure that we are not spending unnecessary money for Medicare. Because let's face it, Medicare can be a little bit of a challenge emotionally. It's not hard to do. It's just hard to take the first step because it's a little confusing to a lot of people. You've never been there before. We can assist you in walking the correct path towards selecting Medicare the way you should select Medicare. We can help arrange the alphabet soup of Medicare in the appropriate way for you. Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D, Plan F, Plan G, all of these things that you have to make a decision on, will help you do that. Give us a call, 270-600-PLAN. But one of the things about Medicare is we have to make sure that we're not making too much money because of something called IRMA. And a lot of times people will retire from high-paying jobs and they face this penalty in Medicare. If they are a high-paying salaried position and they have lost that position or they have retired from that position, we often need to file an exemption. And we need to ask for an exemption from IRMA. If you've never heard of IRMA before, it's just one of the complexities of retirement planning. If you've never heard of it before and you are a former high earner, it's likely that you're working with a growth advisor and not an income advisor. I'm telling you, there are a lot of complexities to this side of the equation. And then the income phase of retirement. Once you have reached the point of retirement, it takes planning. It's more than just buying the right stocks and bonds. It's so much more than that. And yes, we can assist you in that, but it's so much more than just that. Medicare is a piece of it. Now, if you are walking along this journey on your own and you would like some assistance, we'd be happy to help. But one of the things that you must make sure you're planning for is long-term care. Because from 65 to 85, health insurance may cover everything that you need. But at 85 or 90 or 95, if you live long enough, it is likely that you will need some sort of assistance in doing daily activities. Statistically speaking, the numbers are staggering. It's less than a 3% chance that if you're over the age of 65, you will need homeowner's insurance for a total loss of your home. If you are over the age of 65, it's less than 18 out of 100 chance, 18% chance that you will need automobile insurance for a total loss of your automobile. Yet you have homeowners insurance and you have automobile insurance, no doubt. The numbers are 72 out of 100 people over the age of 65 today will need long-term care in their lifetime. 72%. And in my opinion, it is a very troubling problem for many retirees, one that is not addressed because far too many retirees are working with growth advisors and not true income phase advisors. It's not that the advisor is bad, they're just not properly trained on how to account for this type of expense. And so they're forced now, the consumer, the client is forced to go out and find it on their own, but they don't know what questions to even ask. This is where we come in. At RDS Wealth, we build a comprehensive, holistic plan for you in retirement, and it includes what we're going to do in the event of a long-term care stay. We want to make sure that the house is not taken, that the farm is not taken, that we don't have to forego all of these assets and hand them over to the nursing home just because we failed to put in a few proper plans at the appropriate time. We assist you in that, and it's something you must be doing your own self. One of the main things we can do is leverage money that you are not using in your income plan. And again, this all starts with an income plan because we have to know what you are and are not going to use in your lifetime. And if you have money that you're likely to not use and it's there for inheritance purposes, there is a significant value add that we can put into your plan that will allow you a pretty large hedge, making sure that you do not need to spend your own money or forfeit the farm if you end up in the nursing home. So here's my commitment to you. If you are concerned about this in any way, I want to offer you a no-cost consultation to come in and discuss this with a member of our team and see if there is a way to properly position your money in the types of accounts that are necessary to not only offset inflation and generate the income, but ensure that you are not exposed to this unnecessary risk that we call long-term care expenses. We can help you do that today. 270-600-PLAN. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're jumping into taxes. Very briefly, we're going to discuss the effects that taxes have on your retirement and the inheritance that you plan to leave behind and ways that we can help mitigate those effects. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back after this.
It's 4th and 1 with 2 seconds left in the game. Less than 1 yard separates you from victory. You have the best running back in the league, but your coach calls a Hail Mary.
As silly as that sounds, we see a lot of retirement managers being far too aggressive with your investments when a more conservative play would be a better fit. You have questions, we have answers.
Contact R.D. Smothers Wealth Management, 270-600-PLAN. That's 270-600-7526.
All right, welcome back to the show. We don't have a lot of time. I'm looking at our clock. We've got about 2 minutes to get everything wrapped up. And in that 2 minutes, I want you to hear one message. Taxes are likely to increase. Taxes are likely to increase, and if you fail to plan for that, you could be paying a lot more in taxes on your retirement account than you ever thought possible. Dale, why do you think taxes are likely to increase? Here's why. Because we have a spending problem as a country. At some point, we have to repay this debt back. Last I looked, we had a little over $35 trillion worth of debt. You can go to usdebtclock.org to track that in real time, usdebtclock.org. But we can't even wrap our head around what $1 trillion is. It's almost impossible for us as human beings to understand 1 trillion. And there's a really neat little exercise here that shows us what $1 trillion feels like. If I took 1 million seconds, 1 million with an M, it would be 11 days. If I took 1 billion seconds with a B, it would be 31 years. 1 million is 11 days. 1 billion is 31 years. 1 billion seconds. If I take 1 trillion seconds, it's 31,688 years. Hear that. If I took 1 trillion seconds, it would be over 31,000 years of time. And we are $35 trillion in debt. $1 trillion is a lot. Our national debt interest payments alone are approaching $1 trillion. And because of that, we are likely to experience increase in taxes. It's one of the ways we can certainly repay the debt, or at least work towards repaying the debt. And it looks like neither candidate for president nor any candidate in the last 20 years has had any real emphasis on reducing the deficit. This has to be something we address at some point in time, and I'm afraid it will come on the backs of retirees. For that reason, it's imperative to understand how much of the hard-earned retirement money you have saved is subject to taxation. And then together, you need to sit down with a professional who is well equipped with the income phase of retirement planning and begin understanding if there are ways for you to pay less tax on that money. I'm not talking about beating the government. I'm talking about paying as little as you rightfully have to. There are ways to do that, and we have helped clients just like you, no doubt, save a lot of money in taxes over their lifetime by going ahead and paying tax now that we know we are going to owe, and never having to worry about paying tax again at a potential higher rate. Saving taxes is going to essentially be the same thing as if we made more in the stock market. This is the benefit that you receive from a little bit of proper planning. And if you'd like some information on how, give our team a call, 270-600-PLAN. All right, that's the show this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been beneficial to you. I hope you've heard something that has helped you think a little bit more about what you need to be doing on your next steps in your retirement journey, whether it pertains to inflation or healthcare expenses or taxation or anything else that we didn't have time to cover today. If you have questions about your retirement accounts, or you'd like a second set of eyes on the investments that you have, just concerned about stock market performance and really worried about where we are in the market, give us a call, 270-600-PLAN. We can help you in building the right retirement that allows you to essentially walk away from the fear and worry of the stock market because you know you have a plan to address the income you need. This is what we do on a daily basis, and we would love an opportunity to help you do just that. So whether we talk in person next time or it's right here on this same station, always remember, between now and the time we talk again, save money, plan well, and live happy in retirement. God bless.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Artie Smothers Wealth Management are not affiliated companies. Investing involves a risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Artie Smothers Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Artie Smothers Wealth Management.